Salvete discipuli. Cohort students, I hope you're doing well and staying safe during this time and that you continue to learn and grow. Discipuli, oremus. Pater noster, qui es in caelis, sanctificetur nomen tuum. Adveniat regnum tuum. Fiat voluntas tua, sicut in caelo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie et dimitte nobis debita nostra. Sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, sed libera nos a malo. Amen. All right, cohort students, as always, now would be a great time to make sure that you have your lesson plan printed and in front of you so that you're ready to go ahead and fill out that lesson plan as we work together today. So starting on the first page of our lesson plan, we're going to look at our vocabulary review. So, without looking, what does liberi mean? That's right, it's child or children. What about servus, servi? That's servant or servants. But what does that little m mean? Used for masculine servants, that's right. What about dominus, domini? That means master or masters, but it's used for, that's right, it's masculine, so it's used for male masters. Ancilla, ancillai. Servant or servants, but feminine, so used for female servants. And domina, dominai. Master or masters, but feminine, so used for female masters. Great work. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at our word of the week. So our word of the week this week is quota. What is a quota? A quota is a fixed number that is set for something. So you could say, this is the quota of how many books you have to read this year. You have to read 20 books this year. That's your quota. You have to reach that amount. But a quota can also be an amount that you don't want to go past. For example, you could say, the quota of people who can come into this building is 100. That means there can't be more than that number of people in the building. So a quota is a fixed number for something. And this word, this English word quota, do you have any guesses what Latin word it might come from? This isn't a word that we've translated before, but we have used it in the past. Our word quota comes from the Latin quote. Now, does this sound familiar? What does quote mean? Quote means how many. And the reason this might sound familiar is because we were asking each other before, quote ani habes? And what does that mean, cohort students? How many years old are you? So quote here means how many, and that's where we get our English word quota, which means a certain number that you have to reach or that you can't go past. Great work, and remember this word quote as we continue today because we are going to use that word. All right, so you'll see beneath that we have a section of some grammar review. And remember, we've been learning a lot about the genitive case lately. We know that the genitive case, we usually translate it as of or of the, and it's used to show possession. Last week we learned about our genitive plural endings. So now we know our genitive singular endings and our genitive plural endings. So go ahead, see if you can fill out the table on your lesson plan with those genitive singular and plural endings. So if you need to, go ahead, pause the video and see if you can fill in those endings, and then we'll go over them together. All right, are you ready? Let's start with genitive singular masculine. So on your chart, we have ser and then blank. And the translation is of the servant. So what ending would we put in there? What's our singular masculine ending? That's right, it's E, an I. What about our plural ending? Orum. Good. So if we had servi, we have of the servant. servorum of the servants. Move on to feminine. What's our singular genitive ending? That's right, it's I, A-E. What about our plural? Aurum. So we have puellae of the girl, puellarum of the girls. What about neuter? We have E for singular, so we could have exempli of the example. And aurum in the plural, exemplorum of the examples. So make sure you have your chart filled in. That'll help you as we translate today. Now we'll move on to the second page, and we are going to go ahead and translate. Now notice this time, I didn't give you any new vocabulary. And this is because as we translate together, I want you to see what you notice and see if you can figure out new vocabulary based on the context without me giving it to you ahead of time. This is more similar to how we would have done it if we were actually in class together. You know that usually we discover new words as we go. And so if you really get stuck though after the video and you're thinking, oh, I can't remember what that word meant, you can go ahead and look at the answer sheet, and I've included all of these words and their definitions there. And it will be on your lesson plan next week in our vocabulary review section. So don't worry, I didn't forget about the vocabulary. Okay, so let's look at number 1. We have cujus servus est Davus. What do you notice about the sentence? What's familiar? All right, we know the word servus. We know that means servant, male servant, right? We know est is, and we know Davus. We remember that from the picture that I have printed on your lesson plan, but if you don't have it with you, Davus we see right here in the margins. So we know we have servant is Davus. We have blank servant est Davus. What do you think cujus might mean? Just from the context. Let's try some different words. What servant is Davus? Does that make sense? Not so much. Why servant is Davus? Where servant is Davus? Who servant is Davus? Oh, that sounds closer, but not quite. Can you think of what word it is? Whose servant is Davus? Cujus must mean whose. Go ahead, translate. So we have whose servant is Davus? And we're going to answer it here. Davus servus Julii est. What do we notice about that sentence? Davus, we're going to jump to the end, is servus, the servant, Julii. What does Julii mean? Remember this I ending, it could be plural, but that doesn't make sense with someone's name. We can't say Julius's. Or it could be what? Genitive. So Davus is the servant of Julius. Go ahead, write that down. Okay, we have Davus is the servant of Julius. Great. Number 3. Cujus ancilla est Sira. What do you notice? Well, we know cujus. We just learned that one. What did we say cujus meant? Whose. Whose ancilla. What is ancilla? Female servant. So whose servant is Sira? And you can go ahead and look at the picture to see who Sira is. For those of you who might not have it in front of you, here is Sira. So go ahead and write your translation. Whose servant is Sira? And we are going to find out. We'll move on to number 4. Sira est ancilla Aemiliae. Sira est ancilla Aemiliae. What do you notice about the sentence? We have Sira is the servant, Aemiliae. What does that AE ending tell us? Of Aemilia. Great work. You can go ahead and look at your chart of genitive endings if you need help. All right, we have Sira is the servant of Aemilia. Let's look at the next one. Quot liberi sunt in familia. There should be a word in there that looks really familiar that we just learned. Quote. That's right. What did quote mean? Quote means how many. So knowing that, see if you can translate this sentence. All right, you ready? We have how many from quote, children from liberi. Remember, liber is singular, that means one child. Liberi is plural, it means children. Are from sunt, in the family, familia. How many children are in the family? And just looking at the picture, what would you say? How many children seem to be in the family? I would think 3. Let's see if that's our answer. Number 6, we have in familia Julii sunt 3 liberi. In familia Julii sunt 3 liberi. Go ahead, try translating that one on your own. You should know all of those words. Okay, we have in the family, in familia, of Julius Julii. Remember, this is our genitive ending. Sunt, there are 3 liberi, 3 children. That's what we guessed. In the family of Julius, there are 3 children. Great job. Go ahead, write that down. And like I said before, you can look at the answer sheet to see the translation of all of these sentences and our list of new vocabulary words and their translations. So until next time, cohort students, valete discipuli.